Hello chess fans, in today's video I'm going to be going over my one and only ever win against a GM. So this happened very recently in a Simul run by the GM, and I might link their Twitch channel down in the description, and I'm glad I got the chance to play them. This is no hate towards them, it's just I'm showing one of my best games ever against a GM, and this is the only time I've ever beat a GM, so I thought I'd share it on my channel. So I started off the game with e4 like I usually do. And by the way, I'm around 2300 on Lichess, so obviously if you look at his account, this Fighterman guy, while it does say he's 1500, he actually in actuality is 2800, so this also would be my highest ever victory. So I win knight c3, d5, knight f3. So this is the two knights variation of the Caro Kann, and it's kind of venomous. Sometimes I play this, sometimes I go for the exchange variation, or just the regular classical variation with d4. But so he takes, and this is one of the lines. The most common line is bishop g4, but after h3, this line is generally pretty boring and doesn't really offer much of an advantage way to fight for black. So generally, that's kind of why I played against this GM, because obviously, I was kind of nervous because it was a GM, so I played this. He took, and he played this knight f6 variation, which is, after takes, it looks like originally, if you just look at it, it looks pretty bad because, well, black just simply has this double pawns and white has this majority on the queen side. And not only that, but white also has a lead in development with this knight already being here. And this pawn is blocking this knight from developing. But what black has in exchange for that is black has this very safe king over here. So, and after like something like bishop d6, because my bishop is slow to get here, and maybe something like bishop e6, and knight comes to d7 here and here, black pretty much handily gets these squares for his knight, and he has really solid development. So here I went bishop c4, which is an idea to basically get rid of his development. The idea is to go queen e2 next, because we don't want to go queen e2 right now, because he will block our bishop. So I went bishop c4, and the idea is that our opponent will go bishop d6, and now we go queen e2. And obviously I wouldn't play this against someone maybe lower rated than me, because this is pretty risky to offer queen trade so early in the game, but I was willing to do this against a GM, and here he played bishop e7. So you can see how our plan worked. We were able to make the GM lose a tempo. So here I played castles, he castled, and I played d4. So d4 is just controlling the center and opening up our bishop. So here he played bishop g4, which is pinning our queen, our knight to the queen, and he's also threatening to take this. Well, threatening to take, and then take. So obviously I either have to play bishop e3 or c3. And I decided to play c3 because I wanted to get the rook open on the e-file, and I kind of wanted to put the bishop here. I also thought I could delay the opening of this bishop in case, maybe the e-file is more important. So I went for c3. I think the engine prefers a move like bishop e3, but c3. Knight d7, and here I finally thought, okay, I get my bishop to where I want to put my bishop. I want to put on f4 to keep the e-file open. And so here the position is roughly equal, but obviously I was happy to have this position to survive, get a good opening against the GM. So here he played knight b6, attacking my bishop. I went bishop e3. I could go bishop d3. Problem is that the bishop is not really going to attack here, and so I felt it was better to have this pressure on the knight on d5 when the knight eventually goes here. So he immediately jumps in, and obviously is attacking my bishop, so I go back. He goes queen d7, connecting rooks. And so here I was kind of annoyed at this pin. I thought he might go queen f5 as well. That might be another one of ideas. So I played queen d3, which stops queen f5 and also unpins, prepares rook e1. He plays rook a d8, and I play rook fe1, continuing with my plan to basically just maybe double here. I wasn't really sure. If he played rook e8, I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do. I pretty much suspected that I would probably play something like rook e2, though that does walk into the pin, which I thought would be unpleasant. So I thought rook e2 and then doubling the rooks. Good thing is the queen defends this knight pretty well, and the pin is important, but not that important. And I thought we might trade everything after bishop d6. Black can't really hope for an advantage here. It's pretty hard. So here he played bishop f5, attacking my queen, getting his bishop a little bit more active. I played queen d2. He could go bishop g4 here. And it's going to be pretty hard for white to go for more than a draw there. So, but my opponent didn't want to draw, right? So I'm going to probably have to go back to d3. And so instead he went bishop d6, which I think now is his first sort of inaccuracy. The engine doesn't really frame it as it, but I feel like this makes white's position pretty comfortable. He can get a comfortable edge. So just see what you would play here as white. So just some things to keep in mind is that the knight wants to go to this square. So if the knight can go to that square, then the knight will be really strong, and then he has a lot of threat. Like maybe he can go like bishop h3 even, then take and like threaten this. Like let's say the knight's on f4, then if the queen would get here and this pawn was gone, he could mate me like that. So these are just ideas to think of. Maybe it doesn't work right away, so I don't want the knight to get here. And well, the queen covers that right now, but he could go bishop g4, move my queen, and then go here. So I took the knight. That's the move I decided to play, and he took back, and I just traded a lot of things. And what I tried to get here is I tried to get a position where I feel like this bishop is going to be severely outclassed by this knight. And why is that? So the knight doesn't really have a good outpost, but what the knight doesn't have is the knight has this nice square on d3, and I'm going to like double up on this file and control the file. Meanwhile, this bishop doesn't really have a home. Can't go here because I'm going to kick it away with f3. We'll see that in the game, but it really doesn't have any other good diagonals. The best it can do is trade off for the knight, in which case I just have this nice majority on the queen side. So I went bishop rook e3, bishop e4, and I went knight e1. And so here my idea was to go h3, and here my opponent play h5, which is another really... He's trying to get something out of the position, and obviously in the game I was like slightly scared by this move because, you know, when a GM starts to attack you, you're going to get scared. So I played f3. My opponent played bishop f5, bring his bishop back out of the attack. And I played knight d3, continuing my plan. And here I already think the engine says it's completely equal, but I really believe white has a very big advantage here. Maybe even plus 0.5, because white simply has this small edge on the queen side. He's going to double up on the e file. He's going to bring his rook to e7. Just, it's so obvious what to do here with white. And if I was black, I really don't know what to do here with black. So he goes rook f8. Rook a1. So far, there's been no big mistakes by either of us, which is good for me. So takes, and here I just control the entire e-file. I control the e-file, my knight has c5, my knight has c5, my knight has f4, the queen defends here. Like, he has no activity, he's just defending the pawn, so this is a very good position for white, and I continue to milk this position for what it's worth. And here he goes g5, which is the first move I feel like is a mistake. It's just too committal on the king side when you don't really have anything on the king side. And the only thing it actually does, which helps my position, is weaken the f6 pawn. So see if you can find the move I played in the game. I know this lesson is a little bit more advanced, or this game analysis is a little bit more advanced, but hopefully it could still help some of you beginners understand some ideas that are like beyond things just like simple blunders. So I'll give you a few seconds. So the best move here for white, if you haven't found it yet, is to actually play this move knight c5, which I did in the game. The idea of knight c5 is we're attacking this, and we're getting our knight to a square before it can kick us. So what would happen earlier, like maybe let's say his queen was here, and he goes here, we'd just get kicked with b6. The idea now is if he goes b6, we actually still have this fork. So he has to defend with bishop c8. Notice that if he goes knight rook d7, we just take. If he goes rook b8, we bring our queen in. If he goes queen c7, we bring our queen in, and this bishop is going to be like very bad over here. So he goes with his bishop back, and already here you can see that white has a really large advantage. After queen e7, simply offering a queen trade, we just have this lots of pressure on the 7th rank, and all of his pawns are weak. And here he took, and already I was really nervous in the game because I thought my position was very good. And so he went for b6, and I went knight b7. And knight b7 is a pretty peculiar move because it seems like it doesn't really make a lot of sense to basically trap your knight. Basically, my knight doesn't really have a good retreat square. The problem with his position is that this rook doesn't really have a good square to go to. If he takes, well, I just have a rook on the 7th, and like what you can assume is that if you just have a rook on the 7th, then you're going to win the game because if takes, let's say, and he defends this, I can just pick this pawn up. And my rook is just way too active, and I'm going to have two connected passed pawns, so that wouldn't be good. So instead, he went rook f8. So the engine, as you can see, says to play knight b7. I wonder if I can actually turn the engine's arrows off. Okay, so the engine's arrows should be off now. So he went for knight b7. Here he played rook f8. So rook f8 was actually the move that I expected, though not the best move, because the best move is actually to go king f8. And here I thought after takes, check, king g7, I would take this pawn. And I thought maybe my knight gets trapped, but I think my knight should probably get out here after something like here. This is the engine line. I do have this a4 move to create this square for my knight. So this would still be winning for me, but it would be much harder. And this is the position we would get. It's probably winning, but very difficult to win this, especially against a GM. And so here he went rook f8, which really allows me a lot of activity with this knight d6 move. I'm eyeing this square in case he goes here. I'm also eyeing this pawn, and I'm also attacking this bishop. So here he goes bishop e6. And here I thought for a while, and apparently the best move I think is, let me just turn on the engine for a second. Okay, the best move is to take, but the other move that I remember the engine liked a lot is knight e8. Simply, this pawn is undefendable. And this pawn will just have to move, and then I'll take this pawn with check. But I took here. He played rook d8, and already this position is looking very nice. So knight b5, and now it comes to conversion. Here I was getting really nervous because like I was winning against a GM, and this was the first ever GM I'd ever started winning against. He played bishop f5. The idea of knight b5 was just to get the knight out of the attack, and I couldn't really go anywhere else. So here I went rook e7, which is an inaccuracy, but I thought that he has some counterplay with the rook coming to e8 and the bishop coming to d3. I was thinking that if I like maybe just go for this pawn lazily, then he could go like bishop b5, I go a4, he goes rook e8, and I thought like against the GM I really was scared of this counterplay. So while the engine does say that rook to e7 isn't an accuracy, I feel like rook to e7 is a good move in itself, a good idea at least. So here he played king f8, and obviously the engine wants me to just go for the pawn probably, but here I went rook e3, which is, again, the engine doesn't like that move either. I think it's a good move because it does prevent bishop d7. Maybe I was over worried here, but I think I was still winning. So here he went bishop d7, and I went knight c7 to attack the pawn. Notice I still have this knight a6 to knight b4 idea in which this pawn is permanently pressured, this is defended, and the knight just holds everything on a dark square, and he has a light squared bishop. He goes bishop c8. I just bring my king in a little bit. He goes h4, pretty much like doing nothing. Maybe he wants to play h3. h3, bishop b7. I wasn't really sure what bishop b7 does either. He's just waiting for me to find out a plan. I went a3. Yeah, a3 was just I sort of did not know what to do here. I'm really not sure how you progress if black just like moves. The thing is, I guess black is in some sort of zugzwang, because if he moves his king, the rook comes in, but I guess he could just go back. So yeah, I wasn't really sure how to progress here. I guess an idea like a4, b3, and knight b5 would have been probably best, but I just decided the best way to approach this was to take it really slow, bring my king over to the queen side, because the king side there's not really much happening. And so I went knight b5. He went rook d8. I don't think he wanted to do anything here either. I went king e1, bringing my king to this side of the board. He went bishop a6, and I defended my knight, because if I move my knight here, he could have bishop c4, and my knight would actually be trapped. So I think the engine says this is losing after bishop c4. Okay, I'm still slightly better, but yeah, my knight is trapped here. Oh, I do have a4. Oh, wait, yeah, that would blunder a piece. So, yeah, so this would be probably still winning for me, but like just have to be careful about those things, especially against the GM, that your knight is going to get trapped. So here I went for a4. He took, went for rook a8, and here I had a special idea in mind. So this is a really good exercise if you're like, let's say above 1500 or something like that. It's going to be very difficult probably for you, but see if you can find a way to defend this pawn, because black's next move is going to be to go here and try to take this pawn. So see if you can find a way to defend it. So this one, I'll give you a while to do it because, like, you know, it is a pretty hard tactic. But if you don't see it yet, I really recommend you pause, because this is a really nice tactic you have to see. And so I'll go through the moves that went through my head. So the first thing you think is, okay, I should go b3, right? Because that just defends a pawn. The problem with b3 is he simply just attacks this pawn. And if I go here, I can't do that because he takes and this guy's pinned. So I can't defend it with b3. And if I go b4 here, then I guess this does defend it. But after something like rook e2 here, it's kind of unpleasant. I don't know what the engine says about b4. Let's just check. Okay, rook a1 is just a draw. Oh, okay, because you just keep on checking, and then he has to defend this pawn. Okay, so yeah, this would be a draw if you went for this b3 move. So instead, what you can actually do is just simply ignore the threat. But why can you ignore the threat? I just went king d2, and after my opponent went rook a5, I'm sure you see the tactic now, I just bring my rook back. You just have to absolutely ignore the threat in the pawn. And here my opponent took, and now I'll give you a final moment to find the winning tactic that actually won me the game. So yeah, the winning tactic, pretty easy honestly, is b4. And so here after this, my opponent resigned. So this was my first ever win against the GM. If you want to see the center pawn, it's down here. I played 16 center pawn, and it was one of my best games. And so if you like the video, if you want me to do more instructive game analysis on some of my best games, please remember to leave a like and subscribe. And also make sure to comment. Like, it really helps me if you want to see anything in these videos if you comment. And I'll see you guys in the next time video.